So this new album, Kevin, which is amazing, start to finish, and I love it. And
Thanks,
I think
man.
You've achieved something beautiful with the Slow Rush. Is that an LA album? Was that kind of made here?
I started recording it here, like I was renting nearby. At the end of the day, geography shouldn't have anything to do with it. So much of the music I started making, I made in like my bedroom in a really dirty share house in a very unglamorous part of like WA, you know. When I actually started recording the album, we had this beautiful place.
In a speaker, you mean?
In a speaker, yeah, when we like rented this kind of beach shack mansion, you know what I mean? But the thing that I learned immediately was that as soon as you're in this beautiful environment making music, everything already sounds beautiful because of what you're looking at. Like I had this like ocean view. Yeah. So just like strumming my guitar once was like, oh, that's all I need to do.
I always got the feeling that you sort of had worked out how you wanted things to sound before you even worked out what you wanted to create.
Sometimes, in a way, it's fully formed in my mind, you know, because it's kind of just like flicking on the radio. I like to think I've never really had much of an idea of what I'm doing. That's part of the essence of it, is like not really knowing what you're doing.
The sort of prevailing theme of this album, if I could be kind of broad, is time. I mean, it starts with one more year and it ends with one more hour.
Yep.
That almost suggests a concept record in a weird way. Whenever you put a bolt hole at the beginning and end of something, it's like, all right, everything in the middle ends here.
I like that it feels like that. I don't want people to think that this is a concept album. It's not. But I like that it has that arc, you know, like a start and a finish. It's like how we as humans are affected by time.
Talk us through what One More Year is, what you were trying to achieve with that song.
Realizing that you found yourself in a kind of a stale part of your life. Like you're in this kind of like perpetual routine kind of thing, and it's like you're stuck in your comfort zone, and like the only way to break out is to decide to just give it one more year.
Have you ever felt that way within the musical landscape with what you've been doing, that it's become routine?
Sure. The idea of doing what I'm already good at and doing it well is kind of just so boring because it's always got to be a little bit frightening.
You took some time in between Currents and this record, but you didn't take any time away from making music. You just sort of went into this really kind of free collaborative space.
Mm-hmm. I was having fun, but I was kind of like, I was kind of just testing the waters, you know, I just wanted to see what else was out there, you know, like I wanted to be a DJ.
I feel like you spent quite a bit of time in the studio with Mark, helping him. What did you sort of learn from working with him?
So much. I guess just his approach to working with people, because like I've never worked with people before. He was kind of like, I was kind of like his understudy in that way. Like him being able to say what he wants without sounding arrogant. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about working with Travis Scott.
It was awesome. He's so enthused by ideas. He doesn't waste time kind of doubting himself or doubting things, which is extremely valuable. Because you need that burst of conviction. I tried to take on some of that conviction when I'm working, because like doubt and all that kind of stuff is poisonous in creativity.
There was a lot of honesty buried in there from the get-go.
Well, the thing about all my albums is that they've gradually gotten more and more personal because I've gradually gotten more confidence to say what I want to say and say what I'm feeling. Like the reward for me, like personally, was so great. It was kind of addictive.
The deeper you go, what'd you get out of it?
The reward is doing it, like even before anyone else hears it, in the way that therapy is kind of just like talking about your problems anyway.
The song Instant Destiny, what was the story behind making that song and how you got the sound and the feel for it?
That was one of those kind of like lightning bolt ideas to the head. I bought a exercise bike.
Yes, it's good for the head, man.
Like I'll do anything that gets me inspired, causes those lightning bolts, you know? Even with this album, I was doing things that like made me uncomfortable just for the purpose of being creative. Because like I'm the most creative when I'm uncomfortable.
Like what?
Like I hate being stoned in public, so I'll like get stoned and go to the shops. The start of one of the songs was from that.
Which one?
Breathe Deeper.
Just from going down the road high and just deciding just to absorb it.
Yeah.
Is it true you got high on mushrooms and buried all your arias in the backyard?
I buried one. I used them as door stops. So I think someone brought one outside and I had this idea to bury it.
Did you dig it up?
No, the whole idea is that it'll be there until the end of time. Or like aliens coming down in like 200 years. I like to think of how it will get dug up.
Song like, Posthumous Forgiveness, which is like an expansive, crazy two-part sort of suite almost.
Mm-hmm. It was never meant to be a two-part song. It was kind of just like two things that I had. I wanted the first half to have this kind of like confused rage, and the second half was this kind of the sunshine after the rain kind of thing.
How would you describe your approach to the rhythm of what you do? I almost feel like you're a drummer above anything else.
Well, yeah, it's true. I believe so. Like the rhythms for me are almost more important than the actual melodic like chords and stuff themselves. To me, that's like the cornerstone of Tame Impala. And so this album, I just really wanted to explore that more, you know, and push it further.
One of the best songs on the record is Lost in Yesterday. What was the sort of inspiration behind that song?
Just an idea of the chords and the groove and the melody. I think in my head it was a lot more kind of electronic, kind of 80s. The lyric Lost in Yesterday was just something that kind of I just blurted out when I was recording demo vocals for it. Thought it might be like a pop song that I could work on with someone else. As soon as I got properly working on it, I was like, oh no, this is Tame Impala.
Were you tempted at all coming from that kind of collaborative era, that stage where you were just moving around in other people's space, to bring other people into the Tame Impala?
That was an idea. It's still something that I'm kind of playing with. It's kind of, for me, it's like a sacred space, you know.
When does it get toughest? When's the toughest part of making a process when you're on your own?
Right at the end where it's kind of like crunch time, you know. That's when the insanity happens, you know. Funny, this, even like just doing this walk gives me that kind of like, so I've done this walk down these stairs like.
Oh, you're getting anxiety just coming back in here.
It's just like such a potent kind of memory, you know.
This is a beautiful space to create in.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty stripped back at the moment. This has kind of just been the kind of, I was just kind of like mixing and doing vocals here.
So what was the longest you went through without getting any significant sleep?
Well, the last session was like a 24-hour.
How did you know that you had something that you wanted to start? Was the starting of an album?
I just realized that there was sort of like parts of the fulfillment of making music that I couldn't get with songwriting and producing and DJing, I guess. Like, you know, making a Tame Impala album or just making a Tame Impala song. It like satisfies a part of me that nothing else can.
What's one of the most unusual experience or memory that you had when you were making the Slow Rush?
I guess just any of the kind of songwriting trips that I do on my own. Rent an Airbnb and just go away for a few days, no human contact, you know.
What's the furthest afield you went?
Probably down south from Perth. It was like a few hours away. It's never that far because I got to drive there and back.
So are you kind of into the idea of being away from your space and going out on the road? It's sort of like you've got to balance one from the other, or can you now create an environment whilst you're touring and traveling where you can stay creative?
Yeah, I think so. Like some of my most creative times are traveling because sometimes you're rushing, you're stressed. Like for me, that's the time when I think of music the most. You know, I'll tell people I'm sorry the album took so long. And they were like, oh no, you've been touring, you know. I was like, but for me, that's not really an excuse.
It's like, surely it takes as long as it takes, right? It's Rick Rubin that said, like, it's done when it's done.
For sure.
That'd be someone, I mean, would you ever want to go and kind of get into a collaborative space with someone like a Rick, another producer, not even on a Tame Impala thing? Like, where are you going to take that?
Oh man,
you still into it?
I feel like I haven't really even scratched the surface. Like I want to do that so much more.
Last question, last song on the album's called One More Hour, and first song's called One More Year, last song's called One More Hour. And again, that was a deliberate kind of like from year to hour scenario, or it just landed that way?
I wanted it to feel like the start of the album was setting out a year, and then like One More Hour was going to be the last hour of that year. Where have we come to? It's kind of saying like, how do I go forward from here? You know, like how do I justify going into the future? One of the answers to that is like, as long as I can be who I am, you know?
What's the kind of prevailing emotional feeling you're left with after making this album?
Nothing, I'm empty. It's how I feel after every album, and especially this album. I'm just like drained, I've just given everything. I have nothing left to say or give, you know? I've kind of, everything that I am right now is in this album. Put it out into the world and people hopefully like it. And then maybe in a few years' time, I'll listen to it and like be able to enjoy it again.
Thanks for your time, man.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for coming to my house.